when it comes to the domain of spirituality, there are a lot of twists and turns that you might not even know exist until weird things start to happen to you, where you start to see very strange and odd instances in which there are situations that are fabricated and manifested that don't really make sense to you. And most of the time, when this kind of stuff is happening, it's usually a sign that someone is trying to assault you spiritually using some kind of form of witchcraft. And they might not even know that they're using witchcraft, or they might not even know that they're trying to place a hex on you. But they just don't like that you're going somewhere that they're not usually. They don't like, and they're not going to say this all the time, but it's that they, and they might not even be aware of it themselves, is they don't like that you're going places that you can't take them. And even if they wanted to go, which they don't, they want you to just stay over here. It's not that these people don't want to see you do well, right? They just don't want to see you doing better than them. Everybody's heard that saying before, right? They want to see you do well, just not as good as them, not better than them. And the thing is when you actually just have yourself together, you're getting right with God, you're getting right with who you are and your life together. And, you know, it is Good Friday, and I am fully aware that in history's past, this is the day that Jesus went to the cross and had the scourging beforehand. And I do now I do this. I didn't used to do this, but now I do a yearly tradition in which I watch the Passion of the Christ this time. And I've done this for the last couple years, and I think I'm just going to make it a tradition from here on out. And so I'm looking forward to watching that, but also not, because it's very hard to watch in some cases. But that's the point, right? That's the point. And it's to remind ourselves the pain in which Jesus had to go through to get to this point, because he was also human. He was God in man and flesh, right? He was God in the flesh, and that is entirely possible, and it is entirely accurate, because when you understand that Jesus is the supernatural and the numinous combined with the narrative world and the physical world, like he is the place in which all of those can spring out from and manifest, then it makes a whole lot of sense. But if you don't understand that, then you're going to be participating in witchcraft if you're inclined to spirituality and whatnot. A lot of people will think that they're doing spirituality and they're practicing true spirituality when they're really not. And this is why you've got to be very careful with the kinds of people that you're surrounding yourself with, because some of these people are going to try to rob you of your virtue. Okay, this is something, I had a dream last night. I don't know if I'll ever talk about this, this dream, like as far as the details go, but it was very concerning, and I guess not concerning is the right word. It was more of a apprehensive disgust. Like there was just an apprehensive disgust to it, and I don't really know what to think about it in some senses, because I've never had a dream like this. But one thing was very clear, was that there are certain people from my past that are trying to rob me of my virtue. The dream disclosed certain details about this kind of person that was trying to take my virtue. And it was very, again, there's that word concerning. It was just like, wow, these people are really, they are possessed by demonic spirits. They are possessed. If you're not following Christ, if you're not choosing Christ, you're choosing something else. And it's hard to watch people that you once loved, that they don't want to make these proper changes. And I'm not saying that like you have to follow Christ, but I'm just saying that I genuinely think that and know that I've never experienced anybody that is sane that is not fully grounded in Christ first. I've never met somebody that's like fully sane, operational, not trying to, self-improve or anything like that. Like, because we're always going to be improving. We're always going to be on that path. But some people just get stuck in that loop of self-development, right? But it's almost as if these kinds of people are just so, they're like spiritually castrating themselves for the men. And then for the women, it's like they're neutering themselves. It's just bizarre. Like they're spiritually neutering themselves on all fronts. And they don't want to make certain changes because that means that they're going to have to admit that they're not perfect. And a lot of people just do not want to admit that they're not perfect, because that means that their whole worldview would come crashing down. That means that their illusions would come crashing down. And Easter, which is coming up on Sunday, it's not about the bunnies. Okay, this is one of those instances where here come the holidays, right? Where you've got to be very careful because there are certain energies that are manifesting around the holidays. Easter is a pagan holiday. It is derived from worshiping goddesses, okay? Look at the history there in regard to Easter and goddesses. I hate it when people just say, oh, do your research. It's like, okay, do my research on what? So I'm recommending you, if you don't know what that is, do research on Easter and goddesses and how they worship the goddess through egg searching and all of that. It's very feminine, okay? It's very feminine in nature, which is nothing wrong with that inherently or intrinsically, but the reasoning behind it and the worshiping of it is different, okay? Now, this is where also a lot of people will they'll get really mixed up in the holiday. A lot of Christians will just see, oh, well, it's just the holiday. It's for the kids. It's like, yeah, but it's soulless and spiritless and it's empty. Okay, do you really want to be advertising that kind of stuff to your kids? This is one of the reasons why it's so important for you to pay attention and to invest your time and energy into living a life that is lived to the fullest, that you have a control of your emotions. You understand that you can only control what you can control, and everything else is a distraction. Literally, that is the case. If you can't control it, if you can't make a difference about it, it's a distraction for you. And when you have this kind of mindset and framework, the world is going to become a lot less chaotic. It's still going to be its chaotic self out there. The storm's going to still be raging around you. But inside, you're going to be calm, cool, collected, and you're not going to have too many worries because you know that God's got this. Yeah, that world is crazy, but if you're truly with God, if you're really standing in your energy in which you can best live for God, there's going to be no misunderstandings between you and God. It's going to be just misunderstandings between you and the world. And do you really care too much about the world anyway? Like, I'm remaining elegantly detached from the world at this point, while also having the ability to completely walk away from situations that do not serve me. And it is a brilliant, amazing feeling. And this is something that I would advocate for everybody. This is a character trait. This is a character trait that you have. You either have it or you don't. And how do you cultivate that? How do you create it? Well, you've got to look at why you're unable to do things. And anytime you want to heal something, or anytime you want to understand something or fully develop something, you have to understand why you're not there already. Okay, you've got to understand the past and remember the past. This is why Mufasa tells Simba, remember who you are. He's not just saying that to just, say something inspiring or whatever. He's actually saying, remember who you are so that you can know who you become. Mufasa says to Simba, you are more than what you've become. You're more than this, and you know it. I know I'm speaking to somebody right now because you're more than you are right now. And you've just chosen not to become it because you think that you've got all the time in the world. You've got all the time that you need to start doing whatever it is that you need to be doing. And there's no sense of like no tomorrow. Remember in Rocky, where I think it's Rocky 3, right? Is it Rocky 3 or Rocky 4? But anyway, they're like, there is no tomorrow, there is no tomorrow. That's the kind of mindset and reality of life. Do you think that tomorrow really exists? Tomorrow is a concept. Okay, tomorrow is a concept in which there is none. Like, there is nothing to really extract from tomorrow until it happens. It's always now. It's always the present moment, because if you look at quantum mechanics, the things that have happened in the past are going to influence what's happening in the future, and what's happening in the present is going to influence what's happening in the future, as well as becoming a byproduct of the past. So it's all interconnected, right? It's all interconnected, but it is entirely possible that future timelines, you could say, are actually possible based off of the decisions that you make each and every day. The world is going better, in a better direction or a worse direction, because of your choices today. Now you might think to yourself, well, I mean, I'm just a person, I'm just a person. Or you might have a really, who knows, like you might be really prideful. You might, oh yeah, I'm the most important person in the world. Meanwhile, you have nothing going for you. I don't know. Whoever it is, and whoever it is that I'm talking to, what I'm trying to get at is the decisions that you make will influence yourself and the people around you for better or for worse in the long term. And the only thing that we can do is to strive to, as Gandalf says, I don't know why I'm thinking about all these movies in my head all of a sudden, but like Gandalf says to Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, he says, all we have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given unto us. Thank you, Gandalf. but seriously though, that's all we have to do. We don't need to be so like caught up in the nihilism or trying to project our insecurities onto others. We don't need to steal or rob people's virtue, but this is definitely going to be something that people will do, and they will use witchcraft if they're not inclined to be in spirit and truth. They just want the knowledge of spirituality without the wisdom. That's what a lot of this New Age stuff is. That's what a lot of astrology is. I actually think there's a lot to do with astrology. I think that there's actually really significant perceptions that could take place in understanding a more scientific process of astrology, rather than just, oh, I'm a Gemini, so I can't get this, or I can get that, but I can't get this. It's like, that's not how it works exactly. They're archetypes. You can think about them as archetypes, and they're more like guidelines for your spirit. And I do think that it's entirely possible and reasonable to think this, because it just makes sense. What doesn't make sense is trying to apply your limitations based off of abstract concepts and ideas that have nothing to really do with who you are. It's entirely possible for them to influence who you are, but it's not entirely possible for you to just be limited because of these ideas or concepts or these abstract ideologies or understandings of the way in which the world works. But astrology is something that I definitely want to get more into. I just don't want to take it, like, I don't want to learn from women about this topic because they're too, oh, astrology. They're just too new agey for me. Like, it's just too nutty. And I don't mean that to be derogatory necessarily. It's because I don't want it to be derogatory. I just want to be having a healthy critique on this, because it's like there's no ground to stand on when you're just zipping around in the air. There's no ground to stand on. But that's the thing about Jesus that makes Jesus different, is that you actually get to have a personal relationship internally. It's not just looking outside and trying to find knowledge and spiritual knowledge outside of you. You get to have spiritual wisdom inside of you with God. That's so cool. And that's something that most people can experience and have experienced. They just don't want to call it what it is, because that would be, well, that would be actually on the verge of conversion to Christ or following Christ. So they don't really want to do that a lot of the time. But for all those of us that are actually understanding what we're talking about here, you get what I'm saying. But anyways, guys, do be careful with these kinds of people that are trying to like destiny swap you, or people that are trying to steal your light, especially with demonic attacks in dreams, because I do know that witches and warlocks can place spells on people in their dreams, but we just have to remember that sometimes God will allow us to be attacked spiritually so that we can grow into something more, so that we can grow into something better. And it's kind of like the book of Job, right? Remember, in the book of Job, Job was the most dedicated servant to God, and even his wife wanted him to curse God because of all the terrible things that were happening, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it. And why didn't he do it? Because he knew and had faith that God was good. He did not think God was like our God. This is what's so cool. Our God truly is merciful. Our God truly is just. He's not trying to cause harm for harm's sake, but sometimes he'll let terrible things happen so that you can grow. It's kind of like, anybody here seen like those videos where like the parents like throw the child in the water when they're like 1 or 2 years old in the pool, and the baby has to learn how to swim, even though the parent is right there, you know, in case something really does happen, the parent is right there, but the child has to like, you know, learn how to float on its own. And I actually think that's really smart, because some people will think that's child abuse, but it's like, if the parent is right there watching and it's actually purposeful, I don't think that's child abuse, because you're actually teaching the child how to fend for itself. And that's what I think that's one of the reasons why we have so many freaking entitled people in the world today, is because people are not healing from their past, and they haven't healed from their past wounds. And not only that, but they just don't want to acknowledge that the spiritual world exists. Like, this is all spiritual. People are so surface level, and they don't understand a lot of it. And I really feel sorrowful for them, because they think that the spiritual realm is just abstract nonsense, and they'll like mock it. And it's like, that's exactly what the devil wants you to be doing. And you know it. That's the thing. You know it. But you don't want to admit it to yourself until you get humbled later on by God. So on this Good Friday, guys, I'm going to watch The Passion of the Christ. I encourage anybody else that has never even seen it, even if you're not a follower of Christ, to watch this, because it's just a very powerful movie. And I still think that it doesn't even do enough justice to what actually happened to Jesus, because obviously you're not going to get everything correct, but like within the stories, and depict it exactly like how it was, because it's just completely this is literally the greatest story of all time, and the retelling of the greatest story of all time. So I understand what it's about. But The Passion of the Christ, for anybody that doesn't know, it's the depiction of the last 12 hours of Christ before he dies on the cross and then is resurrected. And this is what's so cool. This is what is so important about the resurrection, and this is what makes God and Jesus different from everybody else. He resurrected. He was like, the resurrection itself and the cross itself is now a symbol of hope, of unity in Christ, and also strength and courage and resilience. It's no longer a symbol of what the Romans wanted it to be, which was this really dark, gruesome, curse-like death and just spiritual death all around. It's not like that anymore. But anyways, guys, be mindful out there. If you do want to join an elite group of people that I'm constantly amazed by the people in the group that we have in the Regal Change Academy, because I've never met people like this in my life. And now we have people like this from all over the world that are growing their minds, bodies, and souls each and every day. And we're all like-minded. We all have similar values and interests. Not everybody's a follower of Christ in there, which I think is actually very cool and unique, because we all understand that it's about spirit and truth. We're not trying to force anybody into anything. We're not trying to do anything like that. We are just trying to get at the spirit and the truth of the matter and learn from each other as we grow. It's very, very simple. We're going to be doing more class series here in the future. We do have other classes available, like the entrepreneurship class, Godlike Savage class, meditation class, all those other different things, etc., that you can take on your own time. But we do have other weekly Bible studies, Regal Assembly calls, and then a Maps of the Psyche call as well. I do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you do want to schedule a one-to-one, the best way to set that up with me would be to email me at regalchange@gmail.com. I have 2 different kinds of one-to-ones I'm doing right now. It's the Godlike Mastery Initiation, and then the general one-to-ones. And the difference between the two is the Godlike Mastery Initiation is definitely going to be more brutal and intense, and for people that have the resources and the time to do this kind of a thing. So with all that being said, I appreciate everybody also moving from the YouTube platform over to X, Rumble, and Instagram. Peace be with you all. Until next time.